What is going on, everybody? Jamie Shaw here on the Absolute Basketball Experience. And on today's episode of Coach's Corner, we're bringing you Kellen Sampson, assistant coach at Houston University. He's going to be talking with you about defensive principles, defensive shell principles, going through a great presentation, giving live game action, and then going through a question and answer and all that kind of stuff. It's a great learning experience. Be sure that you tune in every single week for Coach's Corner. It's every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Every week we're going to be promoting it on on all of my platforms, on Twitter at Jamie Shaw 5, on Instagram at Jamie underscore Shaw 5, and then on Facebook Jamie Shaw. So please check in all that kind of stuff. We got some great coaches continuing to come. This is open to all coaches at all levels, no matter how old, how young, how experienced, inexperienced, what level, everything, open to all. Please make sure you keep checking those out. And also, when we do this, please make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Please make sure that you like this video. And if you enjoyed what Kellen had to say, be sure to share it across your platforms as well. Spread the wealth, spread the knowledge. This is a show that is for coaches, with coaches, and completely free learning for everybody. So spread it around. But without further ado, here is University of Houston assistant coach Kellen Sampson on the Absolute Basketball Experience Coach's Corner. Thank you guys very much.
A lot of it is based on the fact that when we got started here at U of H, we weren't able to maybe get some of, those 5-star McDonald's All-American or super super highly rated kids, and so we had to find a system that fit the materials that we could get. And we felt like we could get guys that were coachable. We felt we could get guys that we could get to buy in and believe into our system, and get guys that could play really really hard. And we built our foundation off a blue collar work ethic, but also I think a big part of what we do is communication. If you don't talk, if you can't get outside of yourself, and the big words that my dad always uses, get over yourself. Get over yourself enough to talk. Get over yourself enough to listen. Get over yourself enough to be a part of a connected group. So one of the reasons I chose his pictures, you can clearly see Nate, his nonverbal communication here is he's pointing which direction he's trying to shift and send Cumberland here. And that triggers everything with what we want to do defensively, because that allows, in a pick and roll situation, that allows our bigs to know which way we're dictating and allows us to stop it. So when we talk about shell drill, and this is a phrase we use all the time, shell drill is our Bible. Everything that you want to do from a defensive standpoint comes from what you do out of shell drill. You're supposed to read the Bible every day. That's one of the things that our Lord and Savior tries to implement in our lives every day. Well, you guys, we feel as if we should do shell drill every single day. And if there's a component of our defense that we want to get better at, or there's a component of our defense that we really want to improve at, we find ways to link it into shell drill. And we don't feel like we can be very good at it unless that we're doing it in a shell drill concept. So we get started here. Here are some, in its most basic sense, these are our 4 shell drill rules and things that we try to embrace every single day. Obviously, however you guys play defense starts with your pickup point. And the more you clearly define your pickup point for your kids, I think the better you can organize the other 4 guys behind them. We've been blessed here in that we've been able to find and locate point guards that can really, really guard the ball. And that's something that we identify, and that's something that we try to evaluate and recruit. Our pickup point a lot of times is dependent on who's defending the point guard. We're a hard, heavy blue line defensive team, which means that we always want our guys in a position to help. And within our blue line system, and we'll go over it when I watch some tape here with you guys, is we have the ability to go from a blue to a black. Our blue line is the midline. It's actually painted. We don't tape it anymore. We paint it on our practice floor. And again, shell drill is your Bible. Well, the blue line always tells you where you should be if your man's opposite. One pass away, you should be in the hand in the passing lane. Body should be one step below the passing line. Two passes away, you should have a foot on the blue line. So 2 or more passes away, you should be straddling the blue line. It's just a general theme for us. Anytime that there's a ball screen or anytime that there's penetration on the weak side, we're going to move what we call from a blue to a black, in which our guys one pass away now is going to move all the way to the lane line. So in a pick and roll situation, and you'll see it when we say takes 5, is that we're going to have our whole help side is going to shift and move to a black, which is a loaded position on the floor, and that we'll have all 5 guys on ball side in 4 skip passes. Stop the ball, stunt the pass is a shell drill principle for us. Full body help whenever necessary. Obviously, you don't want to get beat, and there's some gray area there. Is he beat or is he not beat? And that's where your trust, that's where your relationship building with your guys comes into play. But if we get beat off the bounce, our rules and our principles is that we're going to put our chest on the ball and we're going to stop the ball. When a pass is made, the next guy's job is to stunt the pass. That is our inside foot, inside hand, all the way over. We just want to cause some indecision for the shooter. And then as we return to our man, we want to put our hands all the way up into the passing lane and return in the passing line. Again, there's some scouting flexibility with everything that we do. It is a monster shooter that may trigger a rotation, but that's a scouting report thing that we would discuss in the days leading up to the game. We typically do not want to full rotate. We just want to stunt. If we get beat on dribble penetration, our thought and our idea is to stunt the pass and return to ours, and then whomever stopped the ball will return to theirs. That's a general theme for us. It takes 5 to defend a pick and roll. I think this is where we've been pretty good in that we don't want to defend pick and rolls with just the 2 people involved. It's everybody has a responsibility on the floor every time that there's a pick and roll. I think that's a common mistake is, well, who takes the roller? Well, whomever takes the roller should trigger another help. It's the whole idea of the premises, help the helper. You know, for us in our pick and roll coverage, and whatever I know this, whatever your head coach believes in is going to work. You know, as an assistant coach, I could have these great ideas and schemes and have a lot of conviction. But if my dad doesn't believe in it, we're not going to implement it. He's not going to teach it right. He's not going to have if he doesn't have a conviction to make it work, it's not going to work. Our pick and roll system is because this is what Coach Sampson believes in, and it's on us to get on board with it or find a different ride to jump on. But on the sides, we ice and we down all pick and rolls. And so when we go into our ice and we get our bigs all the way to the line of scrimmage, and I'll show some tape here in a sec, somebody has the roller. And then whomever takes the roller, we have to have help that helps the helper. You know, our system is based on help. So as we get started here, this is our pickup point. This is a kid, Marcus Sasser. He was a freshman from right outside Dallas. This is our game against Memphis. As you'll see that Marcus is a very good pick and roll defender. Everybody see this okay? Everybody said good. So our pickup point is what we've designated here is just inside the half-court line. Marcus could actually be a little bit further back, but because Marcus is a naturally aggressive kid, there's some scouting flexibility there for him, and we actually allow him to engage the ball handler. But the idea is that wherever your pickup point is, you've got to have great ball pressure, great intensity, and a level of nastiness when you're defending the ball. You see that as the pick and roll comes, he's inside the ball handler. That didn't trigger a help right there. We didn't view Precious Achua there as a shooter, so that didn't trigger a stunt from Nate. Here it is inside the pickup point. Nate's inside the pickup point there. And so that triggers ball pressure, and that's what we're looking for. No stunt. Nate's inside the pickup point, ball pressure. Here's Marcus again. Good ball pressure, good ball pressure. It leads to a steal. How you defend in your shell drill concepts begins with your pickup point. If you guys want a lower pickup point because you want less real estate to have to guard and to cover, so be it. But I do believe wherever your pickup point, whatever you designate as your pickup point, you got to have great ball pressure. You have to have the ability to make an impact on the basketball. Here it is again. Yeah, Marcus is a very good defender. He picks up this point a little bit higher, which is fine. That's something that we had talked about and we allowed. That triggered a switch. Again, a little scouting versatility. In this particular instance, we switched because basically we blew the coverage, and that was more of an emergency switch. But again, Bryson Gresham, who's 6'9", 225 pounds, has the ability to get up and move his feet. The whole idea is our pickup point remains the same. Whether it's the point guard or the big, our pickup point is our pickup point. We don't never want to back up and get below our pickup point because now you're opening up a world of problems. Heat, intensity, got beat, but we're still able to make a play on the ball. Again, this is an example that we have a little bit lower of a pickup point. Again, this kid wasn't nearly as much of a threat. We didn't fear him as a shooter, so we dropped our pickup point. But once the ball handler got to the point of no return, we wanted a lot of heat, a lot of ball pressure, a lot of intensity, and I think the big word there is nasty.
Kellen, real quick.
Yeah.
Had a couple of people ask, could you please explain pickup point and what you mean by pickup point?
So our pickup point is where we start our defense. And I think that's really, really we try to clearly define that. And it can be a moving goalpost. We can move it game to game. Again, there's a lot of things that we try to allow for some scouting versatility, especially when you get into conference play. But our pickup point is where we begin to start our defensive intensity. We're not a full court pressure team. We're not a team that likes to engage in the backcourt. That's just not our strength. That doesn't mean that that's not a great way to defend. That's just not how we choose to play defense. Our pickup point ranges from anything from it'll never be below toes on the NBA 3-point line. That's a general kind of rule. Now we could extend it and engage it, especially if we feel like the opposing point guards maybe has a loose handle. They don't set a lot of early high pick and rolls. We may push our pickup point up to half court so that we can try to be a little bit more disruptive. But the more early pick and rolls you set, or the better offensive point guard that we're going to play, we're probably going to lower our pickup point. Idea being, the lower your pickup point, the less real estate and the less court you have to cover. The higher your pickup point is, the more real estate and the more ground you have to cover. But again, the more opportunities you have to be disruptive. Does that make sense for everybody? Everybody kind of understand what we're talking about there. Yeah, Nate does a good job at his pickup point. He fights over the top. Good ball pressure, good ball pressure, good ball pressure. Inside the pickup point, we force a really difficult shot. That's what we're talking about with our pickup point. Moving forward here, this is our blue line. So again, nobody at any point in time should ever be in a position where they are face guarding or guarding their man. We want to have great pickup point, which means we want to have great ball pressure on the basketball, and then everybody else needs to be in positions to help here. Dejan is inside the pickup point. We're guarding the ball. If you'll look and see pause, everybody should be off their man. Chris is in a great spot. This is what we would call a black, and that he's all the way on the lane line. You'll see Marcus Sasser all the way underneath the goal. He's guarding the far corner. He's in a great spot in the blue line. Fabian could actually be a step over closer to the ball. He just happens to be guarding the other team's best player, so he's got a little game fears is what we would call it. And then Quentin's in a good spot. He's one pass away. He's is getting ready to be in the passing lane here. He's number 24 at the top of the key, and he's in a position that if Dejan Giroux, who's guarding the ball, were to get beat, Quentin could be right there to help. Good stunt right there. Marcus runs through the passing line. You'll see where Marcus comes from. Marcus comes from a position of a blue. As the ball is in flight, he's moving, and now he runs through the passing line. That's a great example of blue line help defense. Pause. This is their best player right here, Precious Achua, in an isolation situation. Dejan, Quentin, Fabian, and Marcus, all of them right now are in an okay spot. They're not in a great spot, but they're moving to the right spot. Dejan's one pass away. He's below the passing lane, and the biggest key here is his man is what we would view a non-scoring threat. If you're in a non-scoring threat as an offensive player, we're just going to cut you loose, and we're not going to be as concerned about you. Quentin is on his way over to the blue line. Fabian is on his way to the blue line, and Marcus is on his way to the blue line. Justin's in a good job of with a good pickup point, and he's guarding the basketball. As a ball handler drives to the baseline, Fabian is in a position to totally cut off his man. He's the primary help here. You'll see that Marcus, number 0, moves from guarding his man. He knows that he's got crackback responsibilities. When a baseline drive occurs, somebody's got to get their feet outside the paint. We have to have a great crackback to take away the 5. And now you'll see Quentin is dropping and moving with the basketball, and he's in a position to be the help to help. Everybody see what I'm talking about? Again, I'll run it back and walk through it a little bit. We're in an isolation situation here. Fabian is the primary help defender because in our system, the 5-man, which is number 15 for Memphis, is on the opposite dunker. That triggers that our 5 is our primary help. Whomever's in the opposite corner is going to have crackback responsibilities. Quentin, number 24, is in our top of the eye position. Top of the eye helps the crackback. As the ball handler attacks baseline, primary help comes over, and his rules is to get his heels outside the circle, outside of the lane line would be the teaching point. We say outside of the lane line because if there's a little bit of game slippage, we're still outside the circle. Again, heels on the circle, it's a block. So we want to outside the lane line. If they have a little game slippage, we're still okay. Marcus is guarding the far opposite corner. His job is to take the crackback. Quentin is the top of the eye, and he's in the helper position. Dejan would be our lockdown. Everybody understand that? I know our terminology sometimes moves quick. As the ball handler goes, Fabian's the primary help. Marcus is in a position to take the crackback. Quentin is in a position as the top of the eye to help the helper.
Spinning, doubled up, kicks it around.
Again, we're in a scramble situation here. Marcus went from the crackback. Precious Achua does what Precious does, which is be a pro and make an awesome play. We're in a scramble situation. Marcus now has to go from the crackback to the corner. He gets beat. Primary help. Remember, Fabian White, 35. His man went from one dunker to the opposite dunker. He's got to process that very quickly and recognize that he's still the help. Now in this situation, he's the primary help. Justin Gorham becomes number 4 here, becomes our crackback. And we shouldn't give up anything. Scramble out of it. Good help. Rebound, we're off to the races. Again, that's how our blue line all kind of comes together. And knowing who the primary help is, who's the crackback, and what the top of the eye responsibility is. Here it is again. Good pickup point. Trying to post us over the top. But because we've got pretty good ball pressure, he doesn't necessarily see it. Nate's got a good ball pressure here. Boom. Everybody's in a pretty good spot. You see Fabian White on the weak side block there. Again, he's not face guarding his man. He's in a position of help. Quentin Grimes isn't all the way out to a total deny. Again, one pass away, we just want to have our hand in the passing lane, and we want to be in a position to help. The only person who's probably not in a great spot here is Chris Harris, our center. He should be leg over the top, 3-quarter front, denying any easy entry passes. Nate's got good ball pressure. Guard-to-guard ball screen triggers a switch. Okay, again, now here triggers another individual wing isolation play. Quentin is inside of our pickup point. He's doing a really good job. You'll see that their 5 relocated. And had their 5 stayed on the block, Chris probably couldn't come over and be in a help, so that would trigger that Fabian would be the help. But because their 5 relocated, that allowed Chris to come over and be the primary helper. Because he's the primary helper, Fabian now drops into a position where he's the crackback. That's number 35. That's number 35, and now he's in the position where he's our crackback, and now he's the help. Marcus, who's on the opposite elbow, is our top of the eye, and then he would be in our help-to-helper position. And now this is Nate here on the ball side elbow, and he would be in a position to either shut down his man or stunt the pass. I'll run that one back all the way through so we see it.
Just 2 minutes into the second. Just don't foul with him back there, right?
There it is. Quentin gets beat. Chris comes over and helps. Fabian was in a good spot to be the crackback. Fabian's in a great spot to be the crackback. He takes away the baseline drift just like he's taught. Marcus is in a position to be the help-to-helper. Nate's in a great spot in that he's loaded ball side, and that if this had been a shooter, he could have been in a position to stunt and return to his. He views him as not one. They end up shooting a very difficult shot because on a baseline drive, we had primary help. Our crackback was where he was supposed to be. Our top of the eye was where he was supposed to be. And again, they got nothing, and they ended up taking a horseshit shot. Stop the ball, stump the pass. This is a huge, huge principle of ours in our shell drill concept.
Just 2 minutes into the second half.
So pick and roll happens often. Marcus is in a really good spot to pick up point. Again, this guy popping is in a non-threatening position, so there's no reason to stunt.
Just 2 minutes into the second half.
Non-threatening pop here. Nate doesn't stunt. Game time. Pick and roll with the shooter. He's a very capable shooter. This is Lance Thomas from Memphis. Nate knows that he's in a really, really good that he's very capable of making that shot. Here comes the pick and roll. It's off the bounce, which means that we need to stop the ball. You don't stun at the ball. You have to stop the ball handler. On a pass, we want to stunt. Perfect. Inside foot, inside hand fake. Our 5-man is now returning to the top. Nate off his stunt, returns in the passing lane. He's able to get a steal. That's textbook defense. Again, another pick and roll. Our 5-man's involved. Our 5 stops the ball. You never allow a ball handler to have a free run at your basket. You're opening it up for problems. You have to stop the ball with full body help and put your chest on the basketball. They hit us with a little pocket pass. That means, again, now the ball handler is attacking. We have to stop the ball. You can't foot fake at the basketball on a drive. You have to go stop it and force a pass and trust your ability to recover. We have full body help. They had poor spacing on this weak side in that they had a man in the corner and they had a man on the wing. That allows us off of full body help. Caleb Mills does a great job and gets his full body in front of the ball. Here's Nate again on a pass. You stunt the pass, Caleb returns, and now threat's been eliminated. One last one.
National statement yesterday was the type of performance we've been waiting to see for the Spartans, who are now just a game.
If you look and see on this last one, again, everybody's got a plan. You know, are they going to guard to guard or with ball screens? Everybody's got a ball screen plan. Are they going to guard to guard or use a big to set it? On this one with Cincinnati, they use a guard to set the ball screen, which is fine. We stayed home. Ball goes into the post here. This is what triggers our post double. Ball goes to the post. We immediately come with a post double. Opposite post always comes. As he dives to the basket, Marcus's job as our crackback is to get all the way in front of the cutter. He does a good job there. We get a hand on it. Don't come up with it. Now we're in a scramble situation. This is Marcus Sasser's man, number 0. Dejan does a good job of recognizing that he's in trouble, but that is a pass. On a pass, we stunt the pass, we return. Problem's been averted. They still get the rebound, but the problem's been averted. I'll run through that one again. Here comes the post. They throw it into the post. which for us triggers a post double. If you post double, your crackback has to take the dive guy. We get just a hand on. Dejan does a good job in stunts here, which means that Nate's got to come stunt for Dejan, which means that somebody's got to then stunt for Nate. We stunt, we return. Justin does a good job. Justin Gorham does a good job of recognizing that Nate's in a bad position, and now he's in a position to help Nate. Help stop the ball, stop the pass, be in a position to help the help.
Just 2 minutes.
And our last principle, and then we'll do nothing but take questions here. And I think this is what makes our defense as good as anything, is that when other teams try to beat us with pick and rolls, is that we take the approach that it takes 5. We're going to try to defend your 2 involved in a pick and roll situation. We're going to be in a position to use all 5 of our players in order to stop it. Early pick and roll, slot pick and roll. A lot of teams run this, and they've got this side totally low. They've got this side with 2 people on the weak side. They got 1 person on the ball side, and they've got a slot pick and roll. One of Memphis's most favorite actions. Precious Achua, who's a very, very good isolation player. They said the slot pick and roll, it triggers a down or a blue coverage call for us. We ice it and keep it on his side. He does a really good job, and their ice offense for them is what we call a mash, in which he's just going to step to the screen and then vacate to the empty spot above the top of the key, which is fine. It's a very, very common ice or down counter offense. As he pops, somebody has to be in a position to help Justin, who is helping Marcus in a ball screen. Remember, it takes 5. Who's the helper here? Well, what Memphis is trying to do is they're trying to screen our helper. They know we're going to stunt with our guard onto Precious and buy time until Justin can return. They're trying to screen our help, again, which is fine. It's a good principle. A lot of teams try to do it. They miss the screen. We come over. Good foot fake, good hand fake. Again, remember, that's a pass which triggers a stunt for us. We stunt. We return. Justin's now in a position to return to Precious and stop the ball. Precious helped us out because he returned his drive to the same side that the pass came from. But a big reason he did that is because Quentin was in a great spot to help. You'll see that Fabian is off his man, and now Fabian's in a position to help Quentin. I'll put it all together for you guys. Slot pick and roll occurs. Justin does a good job of getting his chest in front of the basketball, and we stop the ball. Precious vacates to the empty area in a mash offense. He mashes to the top of the key. Quentin with his inside foot and inside hand does a great job of stunning it. We take away the initial catch-shoot shot. This stunt should allow Justin to return in front. Precious plays a little out of control here. Justin returns, is in a position. Ball handler goes back to the same side of the pass, which means that we're going to be in a great spot. This allows Quentin to return back to his. Fabian White, number 35, is doing a great job here of being on the blue line and being in a position of help. Again, slot pick and roll results into nothing but a charge. That is a great understanding for us of our shell drill principles and understanding how it takes 5 to stop the pick and roll. Here it is live. Slot pick and roll. Justin gets in front. They vacate in a mash. We stunt. Justin returns. Charge. Great job. Here's us against Cincinnati. This is what we call a chase or a follow ball screen. They just chase, pass, and immediately fall into a ball screen. We get over the top of it pretty easy. Here comes another. This is an inside step-up ball screen. Okay, we're a little exposed here. Bryson should already be over on, from a blue, he should be moving to his black. Nate should be over on the blue line. And one of the things, and it's probably our biggest struggle, is that when your guys are guarding the other team's best player, can they still trust the system enough to load to the basketball? Nate's guarding Jaron Cumberland, who was an All-American, and so he doesn't necessarily want to leave Cumberland and load to the ball. I think he's trying to decipher all this with his eyes. He's not in a terrible spot. He's just not in a great spot. We stop the ball. Bryson knows this is his responsibility. Caleb stumped, but this is Bryson's responsibility. That triggers a crackback for Nate. Nate's got to guard 2 here. Bryson comes over. Nate does a great job and jumps all the way below the crackback, and now he's in a position to fight the screen and get over the top of it if it's a pass to Cumberland, but he's also taken away an immediate pass to the rim. If you look and see right here on the catch, Trey Scott, the first thing Trey Scott's trying to do is to see who's open. Nate's positioning and understanding that it takes 5 to defend a pick and roll allows him to take away the crackback, but he's also got the versatility to fight over the top of the screen and get all the way to Cumberland. Bryson takes the ball, force a miss. It takes 5. Nate does a great job in that he dictates Cumberland. Cumberland was one of those players that he's much better in a pick and he's a right-hander that wants to go left. So our scouting report game plan was to force Cumberland to his right hand. Again, it's a dribble, so we stop the ball. Fabian does a great job and keeps his chest on the basketball. That should trigger a stunt from Dejan Giroux. Dejan's all the way in the opposite corner, and he should be on his horse to stunt the pass. He stunts the pass. Fabian returns. Threat's been neutralized. As that whole thing happens, look at how many guys are moving just because of one pick and roll. Pick and roll occurs, mid-pick and roll. Every team in America runs some variation of a mid-pick and roll. Mid-pick and roll occurs. Dejan should be moving on his horse in a position to stunt and return in the passing lane. Chris Harris, who's our 5 underneath the goal, is in a good 3-quarter position here. He's above his man in a position to fight a duck in. He knows that how the whole system would work is that if this ball gets thrown to Trey Scott, number 13, Dejan's going to stunt and return. If Dejan gets stuck, Chris has got to be in a position to stunt for Dejan, and Marcus Sasser here on the ball side corner would have to come all the way over and get in front of number 20 for Cincinnati and be in position to stunt for him. Everybody has a responsibility on the pick and roll. It takes 5. Threat's been neutralized. Here comes another one. We stun it again. Again, this is where scouting report takes over a little bit. Jara's not a shooter. They roll us here. Jara's not a shooter, so Dejan knew not to stump. And now a bad player takes a bad shot. That's kind of the end of it. I can go any number of ways that you want me to and answer any questions that you guys may have.
Hey guys, during this Q&A session, y'all go ahead and we'll let y'all police yourselves. If you have a question, unmute yourself and go ahead and jump on in.
What drills do you do to teach your help defense or studying the pass or studying the ball handler?
Sure. I think one of the things that we do is we set it up slot corner. So a 3-on-3, and that we'll attack the nail, and that so in one of the slot positions we'll attack the nail, which should trigger a help, right? Anytime you get beat from the nail or anytime you get beat off the bounce, you're stopping the ball. Now that person that was in the corner is in a position that he's got to stunt and read and react, and so if the ball's in the slot, he should already be in a loaded help position. Attack the nail, that triggers a help. The man in the corner's got to fly at the person in the stunt position. Inside hand, inside foot, hands up as we return, and we're just trying to force a slow pass. I think the enemy of any great defense is quick, fast ball movement. I think one of the greatest things you can do defensively is you got to find ways to slow down passes. Everybody knows that great offenses have very quick side-to-side ball movement. I think you guys have Jamie's done a good job, and a lot of guys are talking about offensive things and offensive keys. Most times in good offenses that you're going to find something really good's going to happen on the third side of offense. First side, second side, but you get to the third side, something good's probably going to happen for the offensive team. Well, defensively, your whole key is that you need for slow passes so that you can rotate and get underneath. For us, we set it up 3-on-3 slot, corner, attack the nail. That triggers it. We stop the ball. Now when we come stunt, the whole key at this point is how slow can we make that pass. If it's a quick slot to the corner, it's going to be really, really tough to catch up to the basketball. But if by returning in the passing lane, if you can force that pass to be on a hump you can slow it down just a little bit, you got time to recover to it. And you can set it up, and I think this is one of the things that it's a challenge for everybody. What positions on the floor do you guys typically get beat the most in? Do you get beat in the middle of the floor? Do you get beat on the side of the floor? And pinpoint, what you feel is your weak points, and then try to build your help from there.
Hey, Coach, what are your principles on guarding the ball? And specifically, like, on what parts of the floor? Like, when you're on the left wing or the right wing, and then top of the key.
So how we defend the ball a lot of times is, and again, everybody's in today's game is based on pick and roll offense. Most teams at some point in their offensive flow have a pick and roll component to it. And I think how you defend the ball in one-on-one situations should bleed over into your primary pick and roll coverage. And again, there's no wrong pick and roll coverage. It's whatever your head coach really believes in and feels like he's really good at teaching. For us, we know from the slot to the sideline, it's going to trigger a down or a blue for us. From slot to slot, we're going to be directional, left, right. So if you're anywhere from the slot to the sideline, we're going to get up and try to chest you and keep you on one side of the floor. If you're anywhere between the slots, we're going to try to keep our toes as much as possible pointed towards the half-court line and try to square you off as much as possible, because now when a pick and roll comes, we need to be in a position to dictate you left or right depending on where the screen comes from. So two answers there. Slot to the sideline, toes are going to be pointed more towards the sideline so that we can keep you on one side of the floor. Slot to slot, our toes are going to be pointed more towards half-court so that we can be in a position to left-right you.
In your shell, how are you starting it? Are you starting it as far as like closing out? And is it competitive every day, or are you more so teaching it?
So I would say that just really kind of depends on the time of year. Obviously, I think we do probably our most teaching in the summer months, June, July, August, and September, is that we try to go really slow and we try to put in all components of our shell principles. Because once the season starts, and once you get to November, a lot of it is strategy and game planning. You want to have the foundation to your house built by the time you get to games, because obviously you always want some versatility within your scouts. But one of the things that we got away from was 4-on-4 shell, and the reason I say that is when you go 5-on-5. Your 5-man inevitably, or most 5 men we found, their natural instincts are to block shots. And so they're always screwing something up on dribble penetration because they're always running to the ball. It's just their instinct. And they're always trying to make a play on the ball. One of the things we found is that when we did 4-on-4, everything looked good and clean and pretty. But when we transitioned that to 5-on-5, our 5-man was always leaving his man and trying to make a play. And that's where we had to come and figure out our crackback and top of the eye responsibilities, is because we want our 5-man to feel the freedom to come be a street sweeper and bail us out. I think we finished in the top 2 in our conference the last 2 years in block shots. And so we try to encourage that, and we want that component in our defense. But we've got to figure out how to cover for him when he leaves his man or leaves his area to come make a play on the ball. And so that's why we moved more to 5-on-5. General spacing that we start off with 5-on-5 shell is slot, corner, and we try to have the opposite, or we try to have our 5 just working opposite the ball. Typically, and maybe this is a reaction to the way college basketball is moving, I don't know how many 5-men today work block to block and really, really want the ball side. And so one of the shell components we try to work through is our 5-man. What is his responsibility when his man's opposite and there's dribble penetration? I think that's one of the things we try to do with our shell, is not necessarily be a prisoner to pre-existing shell ideas. You have to react to the strengths and weaknesses of your guys and react to their things that they don't do very good, but also react to the things that they do very good. One of the things we found is our 5s are really good at blocking shots. And by giving them permission to block shots, sometimes you're going to get a little unbalanced. You're going to have 3 on the ball when you don't want to, or you're going to have 2 on the ball when you don't want to. Well, how do you account for those other players and, where you have a mathematical disadvantage?
And are you guys implementing your pickup spot with that as well?
So our pickup point would be instituted there. And again, our base pickup point is going to be toes on the NBA 3-point line. When we implement it and put it in, that would be the first pickup point that we would have. And again, there's some scouting flexibility and versatility there. Again, the weaker or if we don't perceive your point guard to be a really good ball handler, we might pick it up and try to hound him and try to be a little bit more disruptive. If you've got a really dynamic difference-making one and you set a lot of early drag and early pick and roll actions, we'll probably keep it pretty low, and that way we've got less real estate to cover behind him.
Hey, Coach, apologies if I didn't understand it thoroughly. Is it possible for you to re-explain like your crackback method?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah. So our crackback method is, I'll start one step earlier. So in our system, we designate, there's always a MIG, M-I-G, most important guy. The most important guy is always either the 5, if his man is opposite of the ball. Our 5 is always our MIG. Our MIG's responsibility on dribble penetration is to stop the basketball if he gets to the paint. So what our crackback responsibilities is somebody's got to account for the 5. And so our crackback is always flowing from around the foul line, always flowing down to the basket. In most offensive settings, good 2020 offensive spacing is slot, corner, and then most teams either have their 5 designated to be the all-time roller and set ball screens, or he's working opposite of the ball and the opposite dunker. Is that pretty much everybody kind of agree with that? Obviously, there's some differences, but for the most part, most teams enjoy that sort of spacing. Everybody agree on that? So in that scenario, if let's say there's a slot drive and somebody attacks down the slot, our 5 is going to be in the 5-man is opposite. Our 5 is going to stop the ball. He's going to get his heels outside the circle, and he's going to try to be a factor and make a play on the basketball. Whomever's in the corner automatically would trigger our crackback in that situation. So if you're guarding the crackback, you've got to move all the way if you're guarding the corner, you've got to move all the way in front of the big and the weak side dunker and take away the lob threat. Whomever was in the opposite slot has got to drop, and now you're playing too. You're in a position that you can play your man in the slot, but you've also got to be in a position that on a pass to the corner, you can stunt and return. Does that clear it up a little bit, or are we still muddy?
That's good. Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, I had a question. It was about the pickup point. I asked earlier, I said, is the pickup point player by player or is it team by team? So do you come into a game setting the pickup point for the entire team, or throughout the game, is it like for this player, pickup points here, this player's pickup points there?
Yeah, so definitely. It would be totally a scouting report decision. We've got a base pickup point that we feel really good with. And then as we're preparing for an opponent, it's based on the skill level of the opposing player. Typically, whomever's guarding the ball for us, or whomever we designate as, okay, hey, you've got the ball, or you're the point of our defense. It's probably gonna be a pretty good defender, and he's gonna know his capabilities within our pickup point scheme. Now it's dependent on what the other team possesses. Again, if they've got a really good dynamic point guard that they set a lot of early pick and rolls with, we're going to probably back up our pickup point, and that way we can try to squeeze our defense behind them. If your point guard is somebody that's not an integral part of your offense and that's somebody that's a dynamic break you down sort of player, we'll probably increase and have our pickup point be a little higher and see if we can try to be disruptive and screw up some timing with your offense. But a lot of it, like I said, a lot of it is based on the opponents and what they're capable of doing.
Thank you.
Coach, I may have missed it because I came in late, but
Yeah.
how do you guys deal with emergency switches, and what principles do you teach your players in those circumstances?
Yep, I think one of the things with an emergency switch, and we try to give our bigs a lot of leeway here, and I think that that's one of the things we try to empower our players. In there's a gray area within every game. Again, we've got these shell drill principles, and we've got these ideas, these rules that we want to hold tight to. But sometimes there's some gray areas, and you're asking your players to make reads and adjust kind of on the fly. And so they've got to have the ability to audible. And so in an emergency switch is if our guy gets hit and there's no way that he can fight under the screen or over the screen, hey, we've got an emergency switch that. And I think one of the things with, and we've been fortunate in recruiting that we can target and identify bigs that are athletic enough to emergency switch. But I think one of the things when your big emergency switch, they can't back up. I think that's the most natural feeling in the world for bigs is that when they switch onto a guard, they all have this fear, I don't want to get beat off the bounce. I don't want to get beat off the bounce. I know that as a guard, when I played in school, all I wanted if a big switched on to me, what I wanted was him to back up. If he backed up, I knew I could find my feet and rock into a pull-up jumper. And so one of the things that we teach on an emergency switch with our bigs is you got to push up. I think you guys saw it with the clip with Bryson Gresham, is that he pushed all the way up and make that ball handler have to try to go by you. You can't give up a jump shot on an emergency switch. I think that's the most common mistake that bigs make is they back up because they're afraid of getting beat. Let them try to beat you. Let them try to outrun you to the rim. You've got length, size, and athleticism advantage at the basket. You've got no advantages out on the perimeter. I think the worst thing you can do with a little guard is allow him to shoot over the top of it. That's a much easier shot than him trying to run in and shoot a very, very difficult hook shot or runner or layup over length and athleticism. Not to mention, if he gets beat, we got a plan in place to account for dribble penetration. I got no plan in place if he shoots your face off. And so that would be the teaching point there. An emergency switch, did the guard get hit? Guard gets hit, triggers an immediate emergency switch. Once you switch up into the dribble lane and encourage the guard to try to go around you. Don't back up and let him off the hook and let him shoot your face off.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Coach, dribble handoffs, are you switching at all or no? Wings
It kind of depends. Is it inside the scoring area or is it kind of a mundane outside the scoring area?
Both.
If it's outside the scoring area, we would just stay with it. I don't think we would again, I think that's one of the clear decisions that we try to eliminate for our guys. If it's a mundane or kind of sometimes teams just dribble handoff to stir the defense, or they just try to not in an effort to delay clock or to be more methodical, but there's not a lot of intention with their DHO. Again, we're not going to switch that and wear out one person. And now DHO, now they come sprint right into a mid pick and roll, and he's exhausted because he's had to stay in the middle of the floor the whole time. That's just silly. But if they're making aggressive DHOs inside the scoring area, now we've got a decision to make. If we feel like they're really, really good shooters, we would probably switch. If you're DHOing with guys that aren't shooters, we would probably do what we call sliding. We're just going to get underneath it all. I think it's a really, really difficult shot to come off a DHO, catch, shoot, and fire under duress. That's a really difficult shot for a lot of shooters. Now, again, are there guys that can? Absolutely. That's where you have some scouting versatility. But for the most part, that's a really hard shot. It's like, we probably go under more ball screens than most teams. One of the things that we just feel is that it's a really, really difficult shot to rock coming down into a ball screen. Defense goes under, especially if you've got good ball pressure and you're not allowing a free release and to shoot one off before you're able to get up and contest it. Those are just difficult shots. Now, again, are there exceptions? Guys certainly can be exceptions to the rule. But those are difficult shots. So we don't always switch a DHO. A lot of it is matchup and personnel driven. But we would never switch a DHO outside of a scoring area. Those would just be slides. If you're inside the scoring area, we would probably have a plan in place, you know, like a Jerron Cumberland. Nate Hinton did a great job this year guarding Jerron Cumberland. So we didn't want to switch somebody on to Cumberland as opposed to Nate. And so we knew Nate was going to slide and get through all DHOs with Cumberland. That would be an example of a scouting report driven decision.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Coach, stop and dribble penetration from the top of the key. Would you ever send your wings towards the help line?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, in the middle of the key, and I think a lot of it, and that in a nutshell is why we don't deny the wings. I think we'd love to deny the wings, you know, and be disruptive and be in a position where you could try to get some steals and not allow teams to run offense. But that's one of the reasons that one pass off the line, Coach, you know, we're going to be, excuse me, if you're one pass away, we're not going to be in a denial. And the reason for that is we've got to be in a position to help stop dribble penetration. And so we want to be one step off the passing lane, hand in the passing lane. But your idea is to help. You know, our shell drill and our defense is based on help. We don't ever want a clean line, clean dribble line to the paint. You know, slot drives are a different deal because we don't want to help off the corner because there's nobody to stunt. You know, if you help off the corner, nobody really is in a position to stunt. But the wing, you know, again, most teams have corner, slot spacing. If I help off the slot to help off of, you know, somebody's attacking the nail from a slot, whomever's in the slot, I can stop the ball at the nail. Well, that means our corner man can come stunt returning the passing line. And again, all we're looking for is a slower pass to the corner. We feel like if we can slow down some passes, we can run underneath we can run underneath the passing and be in a position to either stop the shot or make it a really, really difficult shot. You know, I think that's one of the things with defenses. To take something away, you're probably exposed in another area. You know, you're not going to have this all-encompassing wet blanket of a defense where you don't allow anybody to do anything. What is it that you fear the most compared to what are you allowed to give up? We may give up some contested threes. We've got to be willing to live with that. But what we are not going to give up are paint touches and one-on-one isolation paint drives in the name of taking away the three-pointer. We want to protect our paint at all costs. That's a big part of our defense, and we feel like we're going to win a lot. We're going to win a lot more possessions than we're going to lose if the other team is consistently shooting contested threes. We're going to lose way more possessions than we're going to win if the other team is living in our paint all night long. And that's a conscious decision that we made. You know, if we played in a three-point shooting league, we may think differently. But we've got a lot of dynamic, beat you off the bounce players in our league, and we feel we need to protect our paint first, and we'll defend the three-point line second.
Yeah, thank you.
Kellen, quick question. Are we going to be able to get into a little bit of some doubling the post type stuff, or?
Yeah. That's one of those things that, and I'll be totally candid, is that we're starting to get a little exposed with some of our monster stuff. So kind of been told to not share all of our monster videos, but I'll answer any questions. We're all in the name of sharing and stuff, but I'm just not allowed to do any video stuff with the monster. So whatever questions you got on our monster or doubling the post, I'll feel free to I'll be more than willing to answer any questions. I'm just
totally understood.
Questions about the ice.
About the ice, okay?
Yeah. How close? And I know this is probably personnel driven, but how close do you want the big to the ball handler? And then swings from the top. The big from the top. Is there a footwork that that you guys kind of taught them to sprint and get there?
So we always have a line of scrimmage, and that's a non-negotiable. Our line of scrimmage is the toe of the screener all the way to the sideline. You know, we've deemed that and defined that as our line of scrimmage. And that is not personnel driven. I don't care if you're Ben Simmons, we're going to get to the damn line of scrimmage and try to be an impact on the ball handler. and even more so if you're a Steph Curry. We define shooters in our defensive system as either Curry, Kawhi, or Simmons. And so I don't care if you're a Curry, Kawhi, or Simmons closeout. We're going to get to the line of scrimmage and be in a position to impact the ball handler. We're going to down or ice any ball screen that comes from the foul line or below the foul line. If the screener comes from below the foul line or at the foul line, we're going to try our very, very best to dictate it, to communicate it, dictate it, and get it stopped. If the passer comes from above the foul line, like in a follow or chase, it's just too hard to down and ice. That you're asking your big to come at just so difficult of an angle. You're going to give up something. You're going to get beat to the baseline, which is going to trigger even more help. Now you got 3 on the ball. Or you're going to have to come at such a sharp angle that you're going to give up a cutback, or they're going to play cross grain against you. Now they're in the paint. And again, now you got 3 on the ball. You can survive if there's 2 on the basketball. You can't survive if there's 3 on the ball. You're just asking too many good players. You're asking your guys to cover 2 guys to cover too much real estate against too many dynamic players. You can survive defensively with 2 on the ball. But if you trigger a third help to the basketball, you're going to give something up. And so if the screen comes from the top of the key to the sideline above the foul line, you just can't ice her down. You've got to figure out another coverage call. You can either slide it, you can quick show, you can hedge it, you can do any number of things, but we wouldn't be in a position to down that. If the screen comes from the foul line or below, you can be in a position to ice it and down it and keep it sided.
Hey, Coach, high school coach here. Next season, we have a short basketball team. My tallest player is a raw 6'5" kid, but the guys that are probably giving me the most minutes are at the tallest 6'3". So any strategy, and like you were talking to doubling the post, like how should I be able to manage that? How should I approach that?
Yeah, well, the first thing I do with most ball screen stuff is I would switch it. If I had the more like-sized guys you have on your roster, the more versatility you have to switch. And I would teach a switch to a front. I would teach every last one of my players that in a ball screen we're going to switch, and then we're going to switch to a full ass front. We call it whiting the post. If he catches it in the post, and this is where you've got to be, you've got to label your guys a little bit. So like for us, we like a typical numbering system, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, excuse me. And we label them defensively more so that we can clearly lay out the responsibilities to our monster or to our post double. Every time, and again, this goes back to what I was talking about. The key to a post trap or the post double or whatever you want to do with the low post is you've got to learn to slow down the passes. The thing that kills any sort of double teams, I don't care if you're trapping in the full court, I don't care if you're full court pressing, and if you allowing quick, precise, on-time passes, you're going to get screwed. What you need to do with any sort of traps or double teams is you've got to learn to slow down the passes, because that allows the other pieces and the other parts of your defense to rotate and be in a position to cover for guys as they're flowing back into it. So for us, if you're posting up, most teams post up their 5-man, is that, we want to have great ball pressure inside our pickup point. That allows for, you're not allowing for a free entry pass. The other thing we have to do, and that's why I said that I would teach to a switch or to a front, is you can't allow a quick entry pass from the wing to the post. So by ball pressure, and then for us, we 3/4 front everything. And the idea is that we need to slow down the pass, either a bounce pass or a lob pass to the outside hand. Those passes, we got time to recover and be where we want to be. In a dream situation, what we want is for that person on the wing to study. He's looking for an angle. He's ball faking. Fake high, pass low. While you're doing all that stuff, we're able to rotate. We're able to load. We're going to be able to be in a position to get our post trap set up. As that ball's in flight, 4 guys got to be moving. And that would be the emphasis with our post trap, is that when the ball's in flight, as that ball leaves somebody's hands, 4 guys got to be moving. We know if they're posting our 5, our 4 is going to be coming from the blue line all the way over to the trap, and he's got to form a great trap. We're going to shut down the passer. Once the ball's been entered into the post, we're not going to allow any passes to return ball side. Whatever pass that's going to be made is going to have to be made to the weak side of the floor. Shut down the passer. That sets up our top of the eye crackback. Top of the eye is got anything slot to slot above the foul line. Our crackback has got anything inside the circle. And he can be loaded, and that's a little bit of a moving goalpost there, in that he can be on the blue line, but he probably needs to be on the lane line if you're doing it right. And the idea is that there's only X amount of ways that teams try to counter your post double. Most teams try to get tricky, and they either try to slash their four. Some teams will try to post enter with the four, then they return him to the corner. But regardless, somebody's cutting to the basket. And whomever's your crackback has got to do a great job of identifying who's cutting to the basket and getting between him and the basketball. You can't allow your crackback, under no circumstances, can ever be face cut. If he's face cut, you got a problem. He's got to be physical and redirect all cutters and stay between him and the basketball. Typically, so now we've got four people that were somewhat identified. They've got two where you've got one. Most teams try to have a really good corner opposite of the ball, and so what we've left them is the opposite slot. Everybody with me so far?
Yes,
Top
sir.
of the eye has the first pass. Now, whomever's in the crackback has got to be on his horse, because the monster man is going to return to whomever cut to the basket. And now our crackback is going to return to the opposite person. And that's how we try to flow out of it. Again, everybody's got a monster plan. It's one of the things that we work at shell drill. I'd say the four things that we work at every summer is that we're going to try to have our shell drill principles. We're going to have our monster principles. We're going to have transition defense. And we're going to have our flow offense implemented by the time that we get to October. And so we work at our monster, we work at our shell drill, we work at transition defense, and we work at our flow non-execution offense starting in June summer school. We only try to be really good at those four things by the time October starts. We don't even touch a set play. We don't touch our execution. We don't touch any of those other things. We're going to try to be really good at those four things by the time practice starts in October.
Hey, Coach, I had another question for you. One of the things that I noticed coaching last year, we were really good at man-to-man.
Yep.
Seemed like we were on ball. We were fantastic.
Yep.
Seemed to get to get beat a lot, actually off ball. Off ball screens, off ball cuts. How would you say, like, in these same principles, you would kind of teach about like off ball screens or off ball motions to kind of prevent?
Yeah, I would imagine that if you're getting beat off the ball, you got a lot of guys that are ball watching, and that they're not identifying and not doing a great job of accounting for weak side movement. And again, one of the things that, if we're working off the ball, you're talking about like you get beat off backdoor cuts or face cuts or
a lot of those actions.
Guys are getting screened. They're probably staring at the wrong things. And you always got to maintain a ball-you-man relationship. Is that every time the ball moves and every time you move, your responsibilities change. And I think trying to get young people to understand that, because they're so one-on-one oriented, is that I just want to guard my guy. Well, you've got a responsibility to be a team defender as much as you've got a responsibility to be an individual defender. And again, the more you're on the blue line, and the more that you're loaded in a help position, I think that the more you're in a position to protect the basket as well. And so if I was constantly getting beat off the ball, I would imagine that two things: my guys are ball watching, and they're probably too close to their guy, and they're getting face cut too much. The more that they get off their guy, and the more that they understand and point your pistols, and you're constantly doing a great job of seeing man and ball, man and ball, man and ball, the more you're going to be in a position to account for your guy, but you're also, you have ball responsibilities. And that in full candor, Coach, that's the hardest thing to teach young kids, is that you have individual and team responsibilities every time the ball moves. Every time your guy moves, you have team responsibilities and you have individual responsibilities. Kids get so concerned, especially as you're implementing a system, as they're worried about their rules, or they're worried about, again, it's one of the things I said when we started this. You got to get over yourself, and you have to humble yourself enough that you're willing to embrace the team idea and the team concept, not just, I want to guard my man. If I've heard him once, I've heard it 1,000 times. My dad say it all the time. Get over yourself. You're not that damn important.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Yep.
Coach, that for a team that has guards that post up, deep short corner,
Yep.
do you trap that? And if you do, what designated post goes to double?
Always the 5, and we're going to trap it as soon as that ball leaves his hand. One of the things that when you sell out to post trapping, you have to sell out to it. You can't pick and choose when you want to, and you really can't pick and choose because you're going to screw up the help side if we name it the monster guy. If the monster guy is indecisive, or if he's stuck in, do I go, do I not go? Your top of the eye and the crackback is stuck in help side. And so now you got 5 guys on a different page. If you know you're going to post trap, the only time the 5 doesn't post trap for us is if the 5's posted. Anytime you post the 4, 1, 2, 3, or 4, we're coming with the 5, and we're coming with high active hands, and we're trying to be as disruptive and as nasty and as aggressive as we possibly can. Short corner, we're going to come after your ass. And I think that's one of when you make the decision and you make the conscious commitment to it, you got to make it. And again, are you going to give up something from time to time? Absolutely. But you've got to be willing to, and our whole rule, it's like we're a really good offensive rebounding team. We finished 2nd in the country this past year in offensive rebound percentage. We were 1st in rebounding margin. I think we were plus 10 on the year in rebounding. And we rebounded right at 41% of our missed shots. That means that we gave up a little bit of something in transition defense. That's one of the reasons why we work at it so hard. But when you crash the glass as hard and as often with as such vigor as we do, you're going to give up something in transition, because we constantly have 4 guys below the block. When you post trap with as much conviction and aggression as we do, you're going to give up a basket here or there, because sometimes they throw it in, your pieces don't move all at once, and they get something out. You got to be willing to live with it a little bit. As long as that, if we get 10-second chance points but give up 5 transition points, that's a win. If we eliminate, or if we're able to get a couple steals and a couple transition baskets, or you get 2 baskets off post touches out of 7 opportunities, that's a win. You're not going to, again, there's no defense that's a complete and total wet blanket. You're going to give up some points. You're going to give up some baskets from time to time. But are you winning the battle? If you win enough battles, you're going to win the war.
With that being said, how do you communicate your when in doubt area? So you have your designated post trapping area for the 5 and the 4.
Yep.
How do you communicate with your team when they're in that gray area? Don't know if he is, don't know if he isn't, and at what point is that when in doubt area get trapped?
Sure. I think that one of the things that I would say is this: is most teams that post up their guard, they're probably pretty good at it, right? You're not posting up a guard because you're just throwing something against the wall. You're posting up a guard because it's a huge part of your offense. It's just part of their identity. I think Villanova is a great example. They post their guards really, really. They post their guards well. They recruit to it. They develop it. For us, so because that's a huge piece of what they do, anytime it's a post entry pass, so I would say mid post against a team that posts their guards, our Tulane, for example, when under Coach Dunleavy, really post their guards heavy against us. If the ball was in flight, we knew we were going. if they start at the 3-point line and they start backing down, we knew we were coming as soon as they got in a designated mid-post area. And I think that we try to designate it. You know, it's so hard to give your kids black-white terms there. And I think a lot of it, you just have to have a little bit of you got to entrust your kids to have a little bit of a feel. You know, when do you feel like they're a post threat? If they're a post threat at 17 feet, you got to come after them. If they're not a post threat at 17 feet, you probably don't need to come until they're 10 feet. Again, that's a gray area. That's a field that and I would tell you, Coach, the more you do it, the more you're going to have a feel for that. And you're going to have a feel for what your guys are really good and capable at. I think you know, our post traps are at our best when the guy receiving the ball doesn't see or feel when that trap is coming from. And so if he's focused on that pass, if he's focused on catching it, then he's not going to feel the trap.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hey, Coach, what is y'all's philosophy on closeouts? You go one hand, two hands, or you shift them one way or the other?
Congratulations, Coach Muse, on your new job, first and foremost. But inside stick hand. So on the left side of the floor, we're going to have a right stick hand. On the right side of the floor, we're going to have a left stick hand.
I believe we have time for one or two more questions, guys. Any more? Let's go ahead and let them fly.
Coach, on offensive rebounding versus transition defense, do you guys kind of chart that? Is there something you're comfortable with, or you just kind of going to crash the glass and just kind of let it kind of fall how it comes out?
So it's a mindset more so than anything. It's a mentality. It's an emphasis. It's an aggressive every single day. You know, somebody asked me this year, who's responsible for your guys' offensive rebounding? Coach Sampson. Again, it falls under whatever you're going to be really, really good at whatever your head coach emphasizes. If your head coach is an offensive guy, you're probably going to be really good on offense. If your head coach is a rebounding defensive guy, you're probably going to be pretty good at rebounding and defensive. You know, and I think it's one of our jobs as an assistant coach is I'm not going to change coaches' attitudes about some of those things. It's my job to get on board with it and do a great job every single day of reinforcing his message. We're going to try to put at all times, we're never not going to have 6 hands on the glass. And that's kind of a huge, we want to get our 3 guys on the glass at all times. You know, if we respect you a little bit, we might only send 3. If we feel like there's points to be had, we may send 4. And we've had games where we sent 5 to the glass. It's just our DNA. It's who we want to be. It's what we want to be really, really good at. You know, in transition defense, we know our point guard's going to get all the way back to the top of the key, all the way to the top of the charge circle, and we're going to protect the basket. And again, you got to choose what you're going to be good at. We don't want to give up easy paint transition points. Does that mean we give up an occasional transition 3? Absolutely. But we're not going to sacrifice our transition defense in the name of offensive rebounding. You know, the best way for me to stop you in transition is that for you to be petrified of us on the glass. If you're worried about blocking us out all the damn time, you're not leaking out and running.
Thank you.
Anything else? Kellen, go ahead and tell these guys how they can reach you or how they can get in touch with you or leave them with anything.
Yep. No, my cell phone is 832-409-8384, and I'm going to put it in the chat here. I just put it in the chat. Obviously, a great way is just follow me on Twitter. I'll follow you back, and we can DM or whatever, you know. And then my email, I'll put my email in here as well.
Good deal. Any closing marks? Anything else you want to leave everybody with?
Stay safe, guys. I think we're starting to open the country up a little bit at a time. At least Texas is. We're a bunch of reckless Cavaliers out here. They got these phased-in process, and it's exciting but scary at the same time. So stay safe and man, keep sharing basketball ideas. I know I'm learning a lot, every day, and hopefully you guys are too.
Yeah, Kellen, thank you so much for coming. It was very insightful and all that kind of stuff. Guys, if you want to follow up with Kellen, he can put his email address and all that kind of stuff here. So, you can have some offline conversations, follow him on Twitter, DM, and all that kind of stuff. He's a unbelievably person and very open to helping everybody. So that's the great thing of it. People online tomorrow, 2:30 p.m., Ronnie Hamilton at Ole Miss. The next day, Brian Graves at NC Central. Brian will be talking about finding your niche within a college staff. And recruiting and stuff. So two good ones. We do these every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So keep checking in. Make sure y'all check out Absolute Basketball podcast and YouTube as well. That would be great. And if you have any questions or concerns, please don't feel free to email. Feel free to go and all kinds of stuff. Any topics you'd like to hear from, or coaches too. I think we're going to start trying to open this up to women's coaches the next couple of weeks too, to try to get an overall perspective on everything. So thank you guys for tuning in. My email is iamjamieshaw@gmail.com, and we will tune in to you later. Thank you very much.